All right, welcome to Morning Bass Fishes, and this is the recap of the Sam Rayburn Toyota Series tournament under the MLF banner. This would have been February 10th, 11th, and 12th of 2022. So, and I finished 13th place out of 220, so not a bad finish at all. I had big bass the first day, so that was obviously that fish went a long ways to my tally. So, anyways, kind of my strategy for the tournament was I wanted a combination of deep and shallow fish, and I wanted to start on the deep fish because the deep fish are going to be more stable, more reliable if there's sudden fluctuations in water temperature, such as like a really cold night might bring, which is what we had. So I always wanted to have some deep fish to go, so I spent a lot of time looking for submerged brush piles, and a lot of those brush piles did have bass in them, but I found that they were hard to catch. It was kind of difficult catching them, but I did manage to catch some. And then later in the day, I'd move up shallow after the water warmed up and try some other tactics. So basically what we're going to go, I'm going to open up this rod locker. We're just going to go through the rods that I have rigged up. And by the way, the background here, this is not Sam Rayburn. I've actually have driven to the Harris chain where I'm going to do some scouting before this chain goes off limits for our MLF Pro Circuit tournament, which will be in March. So anyways, let's get on with the rods here and see what we got, okay? So, all right, here's a... this is a Nico rigged, just basically a little ringworm, and that I would use in just basically throw that in a brush pile after I've already hit it with a swim bait and or the jerkbait. So that would be like the cleanup bait, and for whatever reason the fish didn't really like it that much. I never found a plastic bait, whether it's a drop shot, Texas rig, Carolina rig, whatever. I never really found a solid soft plastic bite where I felt like they'd get on it and bite it good. And a special note to that is if I got up over the fish too much or too close to them with this boat, I noticed they wouldn't bite that stuff. So very educated fish there. All right, so there's that one. Next is another spinning rod. This was a Texas rig trick worm, which I didn't really throw that too much. In fact, I think I put this on the very last day, and just trying something new every time, and I didn't really throw it that much. So on with the next. Although it's a very effective bait, I just didn't get the knot. Really windy that last day. We had day 1 was calm and sunny, day 2 calm and sunny, day 3 windy, extremely windy and cloudy. Although on day 3 they did send us out under calm conditions in the morning, but the wind came up at about 9 a.m. and just ripped the rest of the day, which and as a consequence, it was blowing straight down into the takeoff area, so we had to navigate some really big waves to get back to takeoff. And I speared one wave on the way in. Unfortunately, it filled. I don't think I've ever speared a wave so bad, and I still don't understand how I speared this wave, because as I was rolling off of the one wave and coming into the wave where I knew I was going to clip it, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get some splash to the face off of this one, but not too bad. Well, I don't know what happened. I rolled off of it and I did the clip just like I envisioned, and then like a half a second later, just a whole nother swell of water just landed in my lap, my co-angler's lap, and our chest, our face. I mean, it's like getting thrown, 200 gallons of water on you like this at going about 25 miles per hour. Filled the boat. My knees were, sitting in my seat there, my knees were like, the water was up to my knees. And we weren't going anywhere. There was so much weight now on the boat, we couldn't get on a plane. So we had to idle for about 10 to 15 minutes with the bilge pumps going full bore to pump the water out and get back on plane. And that did make for a mess. I I had 2 boxes in the back, get full of water. One was a toolbox, the other one was a spinnerbait component box with spare spinnerbait skirts, spare blades, and so on. And that was filled to the top with water. So, because what happens is when you get that much water in here, there's a little drain hole in that back compartment. So it just that water just upwelled through that drain hole, and just soaked them boxes that were in there. So anyhow, back to the rods. Okay, this rod, okay, it's kind of tangled up, so just bear with me a second while I untangle this. There we go. All right, well, maybe we might have to get 2 rods out at once here. Okay. Okay, now they're like, these rods love one another. They can't get enough of each other. They're intertwined. All right, so what I wanted to show you next was this jerkbait here. I had a few different jerkbait selections tied on. This one came up huge for me the last day. Actually, last day I was actually struggling. The first 2 days I got my limit quick. However, the last day it was getting late into the day, and I still had a big run to make to get back in, and I only had 2 fish. Well, I finally, after hitting a brush pile that was out in about 10 feet, I decided, well, the wind was hitting this bank, just looked perfect to me. This bank with a point on it. I'm like, well, that looks kind of perfect. So I picked up this jerkbait, and in 15 minutes I caught 4 nice keepers that were like 2.5 to 3 pounders on this jerkbait. So I made one pass through there, caught those 4. So I actually called one time, and then I went back through again, turned around, you know, after I didn't get bites for a while and was going down the straight bank. Went back, circled around the point, you know, worked my way back around the point until I hit the straight bank going down the other way, and never had another bite. So, and my coin angler got 1 fish on the first pass through off of his jerkbait too. So that was a key decision on that 3rd day, was to throw that jerkbait on that bank, because I knew there were fish in that brush pile right outside that bank, and I saw them, but I couldn't get them to bite. And I'm like, well, with all this wind activity and everything, and the way some fish are moving shallow, it seemed like a perfect setup on that shallow point for some fish to set up there and feed, and I guessed right. This next bait is probably the key player of the whole tournament, and you're gonna laugh when I show it to you, but it's this bait right here. Okay, that's how I fed. That's how I got a crappie dinner one night. But it's also how I caught my 8-pound, 10-ounce bass, plus several other like 2-pound, 2.5, up to 3-pound bass on that. What that is that's a 2.8-inch swim bait with a all-terrain Smalley Smasher jig head, and literally that was a huge player for me. Caught a great big one. I mean, can you believe that? An 810 on that little 2.8. That was really cool. And plus I caught several other fish on that bait. Every day I caught fish on it, including the last day. The last day, after I did have my limit, I did find a brush pile where I threw this in there, and I caught 3 more keepers. So the last day I ended up with 9 keepers. And I probably caught like 10 keepers the first day, 10 keepers the second day, and then 9 the last day. So that was a key player. Now this rod has nothing tied on. Oh, okay, I got a weedless I don't know, this was meant, this not even talk about it, it's nothing. This one, okay, this one now has nothing on it. However, let me see if I got the bait. The bait is not there. Let me see. Okay, let me look at my compartment. The reason why there's nothing tied on that rod is what was tied on there was a deep diving jerkbait. And the reason why there's nothing on there now is because when I got back to the check-in area on the third day after that huge, bumpy, windy, wavy boat ride, for whatever reason, the line broke up. Line like freed itself off the reel and intertwined it with a bunch of rods, including this rod, and I simply had to just cut the line to get the mess out of there so I could actually grab the rod that I wanted to use. So the bait of choice, now where did it go? 'Cause that's not it. Where did I put that thing? Okay, well, this is bumming me out. Maybe I put it in here, which would be odd. Okay, well, all right. Anyways, as you can see, you know, things are still a bit discombobulated after that tournament, and I don't know where that jerkbait was, but it was similar to this jerkbait right here. That's a deep diving jerkbait, similar to this color, but it had a little more of a like pearlescence on the sides and the bottom than this one, but it's very similar. It had a green back like this one does, and that in practice I did really good on that, but in the tournament the fish were just more shy and more leery of it for whatever reason. Don't know why, but it did produce some fish in practice. All right, so there's that, and I wish I knew where that jerkbait went, but I don't, so we're not going to worry about it right now. It'll turn up, hopefully. Either that or it's gone. One of the two flew out of the boat. All right, so next, what do we got? All right, this would have been, and this came, I mean, seriously, some of the stuff has been riding in here. Okay, here's the all-terrain tackle football jig. I caught that huge one in practice for the MLF Pro Circuit tournament on one of these jigs, but in a black-blue color. And all I got to say about this is I didn't really use it much, but it was ready to go. Use it a little bit, flipping it in some of the deep brush piles and dragging it on some of the hard spots, but didn't put in much time on it. Here, this jerkbait was a hero of day 2. Okay, this one, well, let me free up some line here so I can give a better angle for you. And the reason why I say it was a hero of day 2, it produced some of my best fish on day 2. So that's another jerkbait, and this color, this blood red color, is one that I created. I took I forget what the original color was, but it's kind of got a bluish purple back and it had clear sides and a white belly. So what I did is, because Sam Rayburn's known for the red color, so I took some red dye, put that on there, and then I also took some orange paint, put some orange on there, and this produced three of my wave fish on day 2, especially, and including my biggest one. And what was really unique was, and this was really odd, I don't know what was going on, but I had 4 bites on this on day 2, and 3 of the 4 fish were foul hooked on this thing. So apparently what happens is the fish comes up, rushes the bait, rolls underneath, you know, changes directions, or he's like slapping at it or something, and the fish gets hooked in the tail, gets hooked in the back. The biggest one that was actually hooked in the mouth, he ate it, but the other 3 were like snag jobs. 1 got away, the other 2 got in the boat. And one other unique thing about this is when I bought this was a suspending jerkbait. For whatever reason now it like sinks like nose down kind of fast, but I kind of like that because you could like rip, and then it would just start sinking. And so instead of the fish rip, and the fish is sitting there looking at a still bait, it was still kind of moving but down. And a couple times I actually had fish swat at it while it was on the sink. So that's kind of an interesting concept in jerkbaits to me that I need to explore. And I swear I had in practice, I swear with this bait, I had a couple actually pick it up off the bottom. But in each of those cases where that happened, the fish didn't get hooked up. So, but interesting concept, the sinking jerkbait, and it needs to be explored further for sure. Next, this would be a deep diving crankbait. I didn't do a whole lot of it. But a lot of big fish are caught on Sam Rayburn with the deep diving crankbait. That's the 8XD by Strike King in that color. I kind of like that color. Kind of brown with a yellowish side to it. I threw it some on day 2 and some on day 3, but not a whole lot. I was just trying to, actually, it was right away in the morning. I was trying to get hot fish to go on it and hopefully draw the biggest fish out of the area on it. Well, I didn't get any fish to go on it, so it didn't work. Spinnerbait. Okay, this is a spinnerbait. It's 3/4 ounce with a trailer and a trailer hook on there. I didn't throw it much, but I threw it on day 2 when there were some shallow brush piles that I had located in practice, and on days 1 and 2 there was fish there on the Lawrence active target, but I couldn't get them to go. With the wind and the cloud cover, I thought if I ran a spinnerbait by those shallow brush piles, and by shallow I mean like 3 to 6 feet. And so if I run the spinnerbait by there, I thought maybe that could be a good trigger, but 0 fish on that. Another. So now we're getting into the stuff that really didn't do much. So if you want to just watch some other video, fine. Because what I got left in here are good baits, but didn't work. Okay, here's a swim bait. What is that? 3.8 on, I think that's a 3/8 ounce head. So I didn't catch any on that. Probably because I didn't throw it enough. You know, this jerkbait. This jerkbait drew some action in practice. Okay, it's a another suspending jerkbait. Drew some action in practice, caught a nice one, had a couple other big fish on it, including one big one follow it in the tournament. 0. Here's a bait where I caught 2 5-pounders in practice off of a hard spot in about 15 to 18 foot of water. This would be the old Carolina rig. That there's a Billy Rub Baits fluke style bait. Kind of interesting color he poured for me. It's kind of a watermelon with kind of gold flake in there. And I don't know, when I caught those 2 5-pounders on it, I was pretty excited. Then I like to run, these are the old Thunderbolt brass weights. I run two clanking side by side on that deal. But and I did fish this, not much. I didn't have many Carolina rig spots. I don't like throwing Carolina rigs on deep brush piles. I did just isolated stumps and rock hard spots, gravel spots. And I did catch a couple spotted bass on that, but got shut out for keepers. The next Rayburn rod I got is the 1/4 ounce Rayburn Red rattle trap. Okay, didn't throw it a whole lot. In the MLF Pro Circuit tournament, I weighed fish on that, but I got away from the grass in this tournament because I figured there'd just be even more. There's several big tournaments going on between the Pro Circuit tournament and our tournament, and the grass I was fishing in beach for the Pro Circuit, I figured that stuff would get beat so bad that I just decided to avoid it. So I didn't do a whole lot of rattle trapping because I like doing the rattle trapping where there is grass. And if I got no grass, no rattle trap for me. That's when I went to the jerkbait. And the whole jerkbait push was, when Michael Neal won our Pro Circuit tournament on that jerkbait, that's you know, I'm like, with that monster bag, what was it, 28 pounds? I'm like, well, there's no reason why I should mess with much else. I should try to develop my own jerkbait bite, and never got to Michael Neal's standards, but did catch some fish on it. This swim bait, I think that's a 5/8 ounce with a 4.3 swim bait on there. That, of course, was what I caught the 11 pounder on in practice, but didn't throw it enough in the tournament like I should have probably, and never weighed anything out in the tournament. But it was a player in the pro circuit tournaments. Like, weighed probably 3 or 4 fish off of it. Oh, let's see. We're getting down. We got about 6 more rods to go. Okay. All right, this one is the Rapala DT6, and a well-known pre-spawn crankbait. I haven't really thrown it much in my fishing history, so I'm just going off of what I'm reading and seeing, and that's the, you know, another red color. Had a little bit of action and practice on it. Throw it a little bit in the tournament. Didn't catch any, didn't weigh fish in the tournament. And like I said, I was really keen on jerk baits and that small swim bait for the tournament. But I also threw them bigger swim baits at times when I thought the bite was more optimal and the fish might be more aggressive, but just for some reason, this wasn't happening. All right, these 2 rods are tangled up. This rod's got nothing tied on it, so there's nothing to say about it. This is the orange chatterbait. Did throw it a whole lot, but I think the 3rd place finisher in the Pro Circuit tournament was throwing an orange chatterbait. In practice for the Pro Circuit tournament, I did catch one really good one on that. And for the limited amount of time I actually threw it, an argument could have easily been made to throw it more. 3 rods left. Okay, here is the, you know, this is the same color rattle trap as the other one, in 1/2 ounce. Okay, I like that color. This bait, I actually found it last time I was at Rayburn. I found this bait, tied it on, and caught fish in that tournament. And I'm still, and so this is, I mean, this exact bait. I'm not talking the same, you know, one of the same likeness that I had to buy off the shelf. This is the bait I found, and I'm still catching fish. And this fish was a hero in the Pro Circuit. This bait was a hero in the Pro Circuit tournament because it caught my biggest fish on the last day, plus like 3 others that I weighed out of the grass and beach. There's another rod with nothing tied on it, and here's a sweet little number. But I never caught anything on it in practice or the tournament, but because it's my sponsor's product, I'm going to brag about it. That is a Ultramarine tackle swim jig with a you know, paddle tail on there. So I promise you, if I threw this a lot, I would have caught some fish on it, but I don't know, when I did throw it, it didn't get bit, so, and it never got bit the whole time. But it's definitely a good deal. I've had great tournaments with that bait right there. So anyhow, what else? So you've seen all the baits now that I had tied on for the last tournament. It was a great 3 weeks there. Learned a lot. Again, I can probably make some more videos on my Rayburn experience. In fact, I probably will. But there, you've seen the baits. I'm at the Harris chain now, and I'm going to just do some snooping around and try to learn what I can here in the next 2 days. So that's all I got to say for now, and over.